recording. Today we are joined by Seth Bailin. Seth is someone that I met at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, and I've spent time with him and played music with him a little bit. He's a very multi-talented guy. From what I can see, he's someone who likes to research in depth the topic of hygiene and raw foods and these kind of things. He has a book called The Fruit Companion, and I think he's going to talk a bit about that, and maybe he'll talk about himself. I'm not sure entirely what the whole scope of the presentation is, but there'll certainly be time. If you're interested and have any questions, feel free to share those in the chat below, or afterwards. We can have a conversation after that. So with a presentation called The Fruit Companion, I'll pass it over to Seth.
Thank you so much, Ronnie, and thank you for everybody else being here. It's nice to be in a space with like-minded folks and health seekers like yourselves. So yeah, like Ronnie said, if you have any questions, please do type them in the chat. I will share my screen in a moment. But first, I think I'd like to just see, take the temperature of the room a little bit, see who's here. If you can, and if you'd like to, please type in the chat just where you're from, where you're at right now, and the last fruit that you ate. I want to know what's going through your bloodstream right now. So if you can, and you're able to, please just type your location and the last fruit that you ate. I'm in Miami, and coconut water. People say that's not a fruit, right? Coconut's technically the seed. The part that we drink, the part that we eat is actually the seed of the coconut. It's not the flesh surrounding it. So arguably, it's not a fruit. Okay, I get it. So in that case, oranges might have been my last one. All right, we got tomatoes, we got blueberries, bananas, dates, grapes, Gallia melon, bananas, grapes, oranges, berries. Oh yeah, it's berry season. A lot of the mulberry trees are really popping off, and blueberry bushes, depending where you are. So, all right, we got total international, multi-continent situation here. Ronnie, thanks again for bringing everyone together. This is really cool. Oh, and just so I know, and can kind of create an arch, like how long do these usually go? How much time should I be planning on?
Well, we sometimes go fully about 90 minutes, but you can go less than that, or I mean the talk might be as long or as short as you like, and then there'll be questions and stuff after.
Okay, cool. Could you enable screen sharing for me, please? So I can show some pictures.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. All right, yeah, we got pineapple. Welcome, everybody.
That should be it.
This is amazing. Mangoes. Red kiwi. I still have not had the red variety. I've seen them. Oh, amazing. Okay, cool. Thanks for introducing yourselves quickly, guys. Let me share the screen here and bring up the presentation. So you can see the fruit here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, hello, everybody. Thanks again for being here. I want to tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit about how my book came to be. Yeah, this is called The Fruit Companion. This is a picture of my new book. We'll get all into it in the second half. I sort of want to set it up and let you guys know just more about the journey getting to this. How did this come to be? Because like Ronnie said, I am a researcher, an information hoarder. I love that stuff. And I love just expanding my consciousness through reading and listening to, YouTube podcasts, Zooms like this, in-person conversations. I just love expanding my world through knowledge. And so this has sort of been a journey of that, and it's always evolving, right? This book may be complete, but I still have plans for a second edition and to create new versions of it. So anyways, I want to know from you guys again, what was a formative experience in your discovery of the raw food lifestyle? So was there anything that kicked it off? Was there anything that made you say, I might be eating the wrong way, or maybe, I need to eat a different way to survive? And again, you can type this in the chat. I want to see just if there's any experiences you guys remember that stuck out, like one particular one that opened a door for you toward this road. Random DTM video on YouTube. Is that Dan the Man, Life Regenerator? David Wolf. Okay, so I bet we're going to see a lot of YouTubes, lectures, and people speaking. Anyone else, if you have any formative experiences in your discovery of raw food?
Well, I discovered loads of fabulous books. And
Books.
then I had a fatty liver in 2008. And I was the whole year on raw, and I cured it fully.
Thank you, Sorsha. I'm going to have to ask you later about the books, because we're going to be talking about the books that influenced my journey, and I would love to know about yours. So thank you. If anyone else doesn't want to type it in the chat, feel free to just chime in. What is it, with any formative experience that made you turn a corner in your life toward eating more fruits, eating more raw food?
For me, it was the Fruit Festival last year. So I've not been completely raw since then, but I was for 3 months solidly, and I'm keen to get back into it again. And at the moment, I'm busy eating a mango, which is why I haven't been typing in the chat, because it's a bit messy.
So Adele, thank you for sharing. And was that the UK Fruit Fest?
And it was with Ronnie, yes. And
beautiful.
Really good fun. Yeah, it was brilliant.
Beautiful. And someone else, Lisbeth in the chat says UK Fruit Fest as well. Dr. Morse, yep. Different documentaries, a Swami telling you about it. Oh, and then you say it's a necessity for his meditation retreat. Yeah, a lot of times raw diet is a requirement for different schools of study. I heard, the Pythagoreans had to fast and keep a vegetarian diet before being able to study with Pythagoras in Greece. Music started taking me to a different dimension. But that sounds really interesting. I'd love to know more about that sometime. Yeah, a lot of times it's just through a visceral experience, through firsthand experience of, I just started eating this for breakfast and noticed these profound changes. Raw Food Romance and Dr. Morse, a lot of YouTube. Cool. Yes. So, all right, feel free to continue typing these in the chat, guys. I like to know how people get inspired and how people change their minds, right? Because as we know, for adults especially, it's really hard to change your mind. I mean, we're just a little more hardened. Maybe us, since we are open-minded about this and think differently than the norm, that we maybe are, in general, more open-minded. I'd like to think so. But you do know how tough it is to tell any adult about just some basic natural science that anybody can understand. But if it conflicts with the mainstream narrative, they're gonna have a hard time hearing it, right? You're a driving instructor. Very cool. All right, so it can come from anywhere. This is awesome.
Hey, Seth.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought I'd briefly go over my raw food journey, or how I was introduced to it. And it was an unsuspecting Friday afternoon in my physio's office. We just got done doing treatment, and we were talking about nutrition. And he showed me a video of John Rose, and I was just completely hooked after that. And it was about a year of watching John Rose endlessly. And I thought, you know what, I've got to know what the solid food vacation is all about. So I just packed everything in. I completely gave up my life in the UK, and I went to Ecuador. And Done a 12-week juice cleanse, and that started the whole raw food journey for me.
And are you still in Ecuador there, Magic Mike?
No, I'm back in the UK. Yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds like an amazing journey. And I love John Rose. I mean, I'm actually currently binge watching his YouTube. I'd love just continuing to hear his message of, yeah, raw food, juice cleanse, getting out the serpent from the body. And yeah, he's a total legend. And he makes so much sense. He's also a really good talker, a really good orator, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I like the sort of just rawness of his videos. You know, there's no editing, there's no flashy anything. It's just him with his top off in the park, just ranting and just saying it as it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Would anybody else like to chime in? Just any formative experience for you in switching it up? And then we'll move on. Cool. So for me, and this just ties into the whole thing. I don't know if anybody heard of the Enneagram. It's a personality matrix. Pretty sure.
I've done it.
Yeah, Ennea means 9, I think, and so Enneagram is just a 9-sided personality matrix. This guy George Gurdjieff, wrote a lot about this and developed a lot of it. But I'm a number 5. I'm an investigator, and this just ties right into my love for books, my love for knowledge, my love for reading and researching and going down rabbit holes. So, but here's the thing: not everyone is like that, right? Not everyone is a 5. So some people don't want to read books. Some people do not want to dig. Some people do not want to spend hours like trying to figure it out. And that's fine. That's totally cool. We're not all wired the same, and I recognize that. So when we get deep into the books, some people may appreciate that more, maybe take more of that away, but just know, you know, I've included this because it's interesting that we're all different. We all approach things differently and all receive information differently. So, but I am an investigator. I love to investigate and read and figure things out. So for me, my formative experience toward the raw food lifestyle was COVID. And I was already sort of a conspiracy nerd because of 9/11. I was 14 when that happened. And so I was in high school. And I was listening to punk music, and that's all about questioning authority and, you know, abolishing prisons and kind of this anarchist down with the government type of energy in punk rock music. And so that's sort of what fueled just me investigating more about, oh, we're being lied to. They're lying to us about this. Like, oh, okay. And then down the road, you know, just being aware of how, you know, the government and the news is not always telling you the truth. In fact, they may be telling you the truth such a small percentage of the time that it's pretty quite laughable. Oh, I see a pink scribble. I don't know where that came from. That's really interesting. How'd that happen? There must be a little drawing thing up. Oh, somebody else made that? Interesting. Okay. So for me, it was COVID, my awakening into raw food. Dude drew on my slide and got distracted. So anyways, I'll keep moving on. During COVID, I kept searching on Instagram. Pretty sure it was Instagram. COVID truth and all these hashtags. I wanted to find out what was going on, right? And so I come across a post with this picture. Germ theory, vaccinate the fish. Terrain theory, clean the tank. It's such a profound, simple thing that was going on. And I said, there's something to this. And I'm pretty sure it was in the comments of this photo that I came across on Instagram that linked me to a Facebook group called Terrain Model Refutes Germ Theory. So, Josh Vaughn, I don't know if you can undo that squiggly. I don't know if that's really interesting. That pink. Oh, there we go. Thank you very much. So I don't know if you guys are on Facebook or are hip to this group. It was amazing for me because they refute the germ theory that any small little beastie is the cause of any of our diseases, or rather, are they just present there when we detox? And so this is what they're teaching. And what I like about them, you go to the files section in this group on Facebook, and there's just an endless scroll of PDFs. Okay, so some of you guys are familiar with Lauren. Yeah, I think she coined the term terrain model, and she founded the group, and now she moderates it. She's amazing. I don't agree with 100% of the things she says, and that's fine. I think it's rare to find anyone that we agree with 100%. That's another thing in this information world, that we have to be discerning. We got to take a lot in, but you don't believe everything. Everything I say should be checked and not believed until you experience it, or you take in enough information that verifies it, right? So, but what I do like about this group is their files section. You can download endless PDFs, books, right? Talking about rabies, talking about water, talking about, the natural food of man. We're going to get into that book a little bit. I don't know how ethical it is to have a lot of these books available for free, but I think the information is so important that no one seems to mind too much right now. And then I would come across all these things, like these newspaper articles that Lauren would share from the 1800s, in the 1900s, that fruit is detoxifying, that fruit is is healthy, that fruit is, the better than animal food, the prime human fuel, and it all started clicking right away. It all started clicking, made a lot of sense right away, just from this group. And so I pretty much went on an obsessive binge of this information for a long time. And I credit it to saving my life in a way. I was dealing with health issues and also didn't know how to navigate COVID. But as soon as I came across all this stuff, it was so clear to me that government doesn't know anything about health. And if they did, they'd be promoting diet, nutrition, stress, relationships, right? Purpose. Somebody wants a reminder of what group it is. It's called Terrain Model Refutes Germ Theory. I'll just go back to that slide so you can plug that in or take a screenshot. Happy to have you there. So yeah, it sent me down this long, never ending, because it's not over and I'm still reading, journey into these books on the subject. So next question I want to ask you guys is, was there a particular book, and I read, or resource, because I want to know if it's a YouTube channel, like, that's important too. I kind of want to know, did John Rose, did Dr. Morse, did Ronnie Smith get you really, boom, my eyes open? But if there's any books in particular, please type it in the chat, or feel free to just speak up. Sorcha, you mentioned some books earlier, I think, or was that somebody else? I'm still meeting everybody in here.
No, that was me.
Yeah, so what books in particular do you think made the biggest impact?
Whole Russian family called Valienko, I think. I can't remember her name, and the children, and they really healed themselves fully. And she wrote a 12-step program, actually, to get off cooked food.
Are you talking about Victoria Butenko?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And also Tanya Alexieva, who's now Tanya Mayer. She wrote a really good book called The Uncooked Book.
I'm going to write that down. Tell me her name again, please.
Tanya Mayer. M-E-R.
Okay.
It's called The Uncooked Book.
Beautiful.
And then there was Karen Nola way back then, obviously Tom Wolfe, David Wolfe, and Matt Monarch. People were really healing on raw food. That was in 2007 or 8 when I got into it. And I do have some books at home, but I haven't got them now. Wonderful cookbooks, uncooked books.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'm definitely going to check out a couple of the names you said. And oh yeah, Victoria Butenko. I'm going to get into her later because I just finished reading one of her books, and she's amazing. She is incredible. Not only her research and her writing style, but her personal experience and the story she tells about her children and her husband and herself and all of her clients, and incredible stuff. Let me check out these comments. 80-10-10 diet, great. Yes, I think that is so well written and so I don't know if concise is the word, but it's so to the point and so touches on all the proper, points that it's really easy for someone to read that book, even just the first 50 pages, and go, oh, okay, I'm hooked. Ronnie says Durian Rider back in the day. Yeah, and Matt Monarch too. The old YouTubers. I think there was a big boom of this movement. What, 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, in the YouTube.
Yeah. Well, before YouTube, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, there was raw movement well before I was born, and before any of us were born. There was, and we're going to get into that too, into the history a bit.
Yeah.
But I think there in YouTube's in raw prime, you had people like Matt Monner kind of like really doing his thing 10 years ago. And now, yeah, Jillian Barry doing a lot. China Study, yep. Michael Arnstein, Durian Rider. Okay, Dr. Greger. Raw Food and Romance. She's got a great channel, yep. I Live on Fruit, S.E. Hannibal. Left in the Dark by Tony Wright. Okay. I have not, I'm going to write those down. Yep, Ann Osborne, love her. Cool. Beautiful. Thank you guys for sharing. I really like to know what people find and what clicks with them, because there's something in those resources that helps you open your eyes, right? That helps you say, there's something to this. And usually those resources put things very simply in terms that are so easy to understand with not too much research. And it's 80-10-10's got a lot of good science in there, a lot of good research, but I think it's the way he describes frugivores, and it's like, what are we designed to eat kind of in the beginning? Just the common sense, things that you can observe with your own eyes. You don't need a science lab to figure some of this stuff out. Detox Your World by Shazzy. Okay. Cool. So there's a lot of resources I have not heard of, and I'm writing some of these down. This is cool. So, Free Melon Society by Eli Motter. I love Eli. Eli is great. Yep. I love how he incorporates the natural law stuff. From Deathbed to Boisterous Health by Morris Kors. Beautiful. I like the older stuff. I'm going to check that out. Morris Kors. All right. Thank you guys for sharing. If you have any more you feel like typing in, feel free. So here's my list of what I've been reading the last 3 years. And if you guys want to just take a screenshot of this, feel free. These are a lot of the books that I read, and some I didn't read fully. I just read enough to be like, okay, I get it. But most of them I read all the way through, and really put me on this path of like knowing almost. But it's the experience too where you really start to know. Once you take it into your own body and live it, then you really know. But if you read all these books, you're going to have a hard time living like normal earthlings out there. So, and we see all the way back in the 1850s, we had R.T. Trawl with his treatise on water. And I only have volume 2. You can't find volume 1 out there. And Ronnie's right. Some of these old books are hard to read. And I want to talk about that too. Like, Herbert Shelton obviously is a big, huge legend in the natural hygiene game. And he wrote some of the seminal works on natural hygiene and natural eating. But he's kind of hard to read. And he's not even that old, right? I think he died in the late 80s. But he's even kind of hard to read because he's just a little wordy. And what he can say in a page, T.C. Fry will say in a sentence. And since TC Fry studied with Dr. Shelton, I kind of like reading TC Fry better. It's like I get the downloads quicker. He's saying the same thing, just without all the Southern Texan, just ornate, flowery language that Shelton likes to write in. And you thought the Eric books were hard to read. Okay, cool. Now, I will go on because the first thing I want to share is that the Eric book was the first one that I read. And it blew my freaking mind to the walls. Like, I read that and I said, oh my God, I have acidosis. I have to fast. I have to start eating fruit. Like, what is going on? I was also dealing with some health issues, and just hearing his story, fasting for 40 days and different times that he did. I forget the exact times that he did, but he did multiple fasts, leading up to 40 days. And this was kind of the window into the whole idea that this is possible, that you can go time without food, that you can go time without cooked food, that you can go your whole life without cooked food. But I think people also mistake Eric's teachings. He promotes using cooked food in a transition diet and in a, he didn't write too much about diet after the transition period, but it's like, you also have to keep in mind this was 100 years ago, and the cooked food that was around back then is not nearly as damaging as it is today, right? Today we have Monsanto glyphosate sprayed on the wheat, on all the bread grains, and that alone could be causing a lot of these issues. You've heard how people go to Italy and eat pasta there and don't have the same stomach troubles they do back in the States or wherever they're from. When I think in the States especially, we refine flour to this disgusting degree where it's just totally sprayed with glyphosate, all sorts of other pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. It's bleached, it's totally stripped. So you got to keep in mind that these things written 100 years ago, sometimes they do promote cooked food, especially in transitioning to get away from it. But that's a common misconception I hear, is that people think the mucusless diet healing system is all about just going fully raw. Yep, Gabriel Cousins, John Robbins, thank you guys for contributing to this conversation. Heal yourself with sunlight. Oh, Andreas Moritz, he's cool. Yeah, I read one of his books on vaccination. Died for New America, John Robbins, great. John Robbins is a legend. He also writes really good stuff. I have on my list, I think I wrote Food Revolution in here. Yeah, 2001. So, but anyways, okay, Eric, first book I read, totally blew my mind. It is a little hard to read, and as you can see, the page on the right is blurry. So I'm reading on my computer blurry scan pages the whole time, but I didn't care because the information was so potent, so powerful, that I couldn't stop. I could not stop reading this. And I really made some changes instantly as soon as I read this. We talked about Shelton a bit. And if you guys haven't checked him out and you want more information, please check him out. I mean, he's sort of the I wouldn't say grandfather. He is one of the fathers of natural hygiene. He composed, wrote the Science and Fine Art of Food and Nutrition, as well as the Science and Fine Art of Natural Hygiene, and the Science and Fine Art of Fasting. There's a short book called Fasting Can Save Your Life that he wrote. And there's another really short book called Food Combining Made Easy, which I actually used that to inform the Fruit Companion, which we're going to talk about. So here's a great quote from the Science and Fine Art of Food and Nutrition. I won't read the whole thing, but he basically says, look at the human. We're frugivore. It's obvious. Anatomically, physiologically, emotionally, right? If people can't get around the fact that our esophagus and stomach and intestines are not built for animal products, they do know as a fact that going up to an animal and killing it with your bare hands will be emotionally tough, right? Unless you've done that and you've conditioned yourself your whole life to do that, anyone will admit, any meat eater will admit, oh yeah, I don't want to kill animals, right? We're not emotionally endowed to do so, which in my mind means that we're not biologically endowed to eat them. So it all started clicking so fast. When I was coming to this information, it was like, oh my God, finally. Because I didn't tell you guys, I was always a sick kid kind of back in the day coming up. I had asthma, chronic asthma my entire life. Allergies, I was always the kid with peanut allergies who had to bring in like my own little boxed treats, because when kids had birthdays at school, their parents would bring in cupcakes and they would share with the whole class. But since I couldn't ask the parent every time what they made it with, were there any nuts in there, I had my little box of Twinkies stashed away in the classroom so that I could always enjoy a treat while everybody else had homemade baked goods. So I was always allergic to nuts, which means I always read the ingredients on any food package. So my mindfulness about food started really early, because every single food package I would eat, everything without fail, even if it was something I kind of knew already, I would just read the ingredients again, just to see if they didn't put any new peanut product in there, right? So I was reading the ingredients lists since I learned how to read. And I think that really set me up for success, because in my 20s and teens, I started seeing things like, what's high fructose corn syrup? What's mixed tocopherols? What's riboflavin? Like, what is all this stuff? What is polysorbate 80? And I actually would start to look them up and find out, oh, this is a preservative. Oh, it's actually toxic in large amounts. Oh, I probably don't want to eat that. So I think reading the ingredients lists is huge. And, my allergies is almost a blessing, because it forced me to just be mindful about what I eat. And it set me up for this situation I'm in now. So yeah, Shelton back in when was he writing? I think as early as I want to say the 30s, but 50s, definitely the 50s, 60s, 70s. He had his magazine and everything. He was such a prolific writer. That's the other thing too. He wrote so much, and he was a working doctor. So he had patients. He fasted thousands of patients. So anyways, shout out to him. I wanted to go further back and read who he was referencing. And that was people like Hereward Carrington. So I read The Natural Food of Man, where you can see the contents on the right. He just addresses sort of each of those things and really promotes and this idea that the natural food of man is fruit, tender vegetables. So shout out to Hereward Carrington, Alan Goldhammer. I'm just reading the chat, guys. Hildy Larson. I'm writing the names down that I haven't heard of. I do know Alan Goldhammer. Actually, some of his YouTube got me turned on to fasting as well. So beautiful. And so Hereward Carrington is saying this, what was he saying? 112 years ago, the same stuff that we're saying today with modern science, right? And things like the China study. They found that diet is the most powerful weapon against disease and sickness. Again, hello, why weren't they talking about that during COVID? That was a clear red flag to me, right? Of this is a health, you guys are calling this a health pandemic and you're not talking about diet and nutrition? Like, let's be real here. So it actually made me want to dive into this further. There seemed to be like a vacuum of this type of information. So it was like, well, we gotta fill this. We gotta fill this with air, fill this with life, fill this with knowledge, and pass this stuff around. So, the China study is saying you can eat vegetables as much as you want. Minimize and avoid all the high protein animal products. And this is the largest study of nutrition ever done. It backs up a lot of the things John Robbins was saying in his books, Diet for New America, Food Revolution, the same exact conclusions from different studies, right? So John Robbins would reference these 8 or 12 studies about why high protein causes osteoporosis, and they're different than the ones the China study used. So we're cross-referencing here, and we're seeing the same thing. And so, after I dug into a lot of these, it was game over for me. Okay, I can't unlearn that, So again, I'll leave this up just in case you guys want to screenshot it real quick or write down some of the books maybe you haven't heard of that look interesting to you. Are there any on this list that you guys read that really that you really enjoyed? I saw people say 80-10-10. because that's a really classic one. I wonder if anyone's ever checked out The Invisible Rainbow. That's a really interesting one. And it's not about food, it's about EMF. And if you think about the visible rainbow as Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, that's the visible part of the electromagnetic spectrum. But there's all this other part of the electromagnetic spectrum that we can't see, right? That's known as the invisible rainbow. And wow, it really just backed up the idea that germs aren't necessarily the cause, right? Like modern science is telling us that people get all sorts of sick, especially transmissible, quote unquote, diseases when new electronic and radio technologies are being introduced to that area. So that's a really interesting one to check out. Forks Over Knives documentary. Yep. Awesome. Someone mentioned Victoria Butenko as well. I'm going to talk about her in the next slide because I really, really enjoyed her book. I'm going to move on from this. So last chance just to screenshot that little list of like books, 30 or so books that I read in the last 3 years that really opened my mind. Oh, another shout out to Man's Higher Consciousness. Got to give him credit. Hilton Hotima. That one is just really fascinating about fasting and about the need for food. Does man eat to live or does man eat to die? I listened to the audiobook too on that one. So the narrator's voice is in my head, but yeah, Man's Higher Consciousness. Did anybody read the Essene Gospel of Peace? I just want to talk about that real quick. Or heard about it? Apparently this guy, Zaleski, or I don't know how you say his name, Zakeli. We'll call him Edmund. Edmund, I don't know. He alleges to have found this ancient manuscript, a lost book of the Bible, so to speak, in the Vatican archives. Now, the Vatican denies that he was ever there, but you can't believe anything the Vatican says, so whatever. But I don't know if this guy actually did find a book in the Vatican archives or anywhere, and translated it and published it, or if some fanatical raw foodist wrote this book. Because when you read it, it could be either. It could be Jesus and his disciples, or it could be this guy just talking about enemas and eating fruits and bathing in sunshine and letting the angels of air and angels of light, help you, which is all good. And you could read it as a metaphor. But I don't know, has anyone else read or checked out the Essene Gospel of Peace? A lot of people reference it and say, look, Jesus was a raw vegan. Jesus wanted you to do enemas. And I just don't know if that's true. I don't know if, if Jesus ever existed. Sorry, does somebody want to chime in?
Yeah, I read it. At least the first volume. There's 2 more volumes, but I haven't been able to find them in audiobook. So it sounds very plausible to me, but you bring it up to fundamentalist Christians and they go ape snot. Like, no, he was a liar. Zekeli, yeah. Right. Brilliant stuff. Whether he made it up or he actually found it, I don't care. It's brilliant stuff. We're talking about natural diet, and it's mind-blowing. And supposedly ancient yogis were taking water into the rectum 2 millennia back or more. So, this is old-time knowledge. And there's many controversies about Jesus. There are many people that say that Jesus traveled to the Far East and studied in the missing years, right? Because he's mentioned when he's 12 years old in the temple, astounding the elders. And then he's not mentioned again until his ministry begins. But where did he get all that knowledge? So, yeah.
Totally.
Unbelievable stuff. Yeah. I wish I had this list of yours earlier, but thanks for letting me chime in.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, and I'm pretty much right there with you. I don't know if it was written back in Jesus times or if he said any of this stuff, or if someone else in modern day made it up and attributed it to Jesus. But again, I don't really care, because when you read it, it does ring with truth. I was surprised in the very beginning to mention enemas. Find a gourd hanging from a tree that's dried out, empty it and fill it with water warmed from the sun, and stick it in the behind and wash out all your sins. And it's like, enemas are a great part of detox. Whether or not Jesus mentioned that, like, I don't know. And we'll never know, maybe, but it is just a really good read. I agree. Yeah. And someone said, oh, sorry. Someone asked me to say the name about this book. It's called The Essene Gospel of Peace, Essene. You can find a PDF of it online pretty easily. The Essene Gospel of Peace. And someone else said that Christspiracy documentary just came out. I saw it. I think it's really great. It kind of says a lot of the same stuff, that Jesus was vegan, that he never would have killed animals, right? The whole documentary is asking this question: how would Jesus kill an animal? You know, and they asked this to the pastors, they asked this to the priests, and they're kind of stumped. They really are. They think they know, but then you just see their cognitive dissonance. It's really great. So I do recommend that documentary if no one's seen it yet. It just came out, Christspiracy. So anyways, cool. That's a little bit of my list. Thanks for, the Eustace Mullins book there, 1988, Murder by Injection. That's all about the medical conspiracy, you know, the Rockefeller, following the money, about who owns the Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, who were Sloan and who was Kettering. And like, he just follows the money. It all goes back to the bankers, and same stuff you always see in these tightly controlled industries. And John Kohler, yep, he's another great YouTuber that I saw a lot of his stuff early on. Cool. So that was just a little intro in my love for books. You know, I just want to share my love for the things that helped me get on this journey. Yeah, you can ask a question. And I'll just go on to one more book I want to talk about. Someone mentioned Victoria Butenko, and I just finished reading this one, and it blew my mind. I have to say, I'm now really into getting my greens. Just for the highlights, just real quick, because I just thought this book was so interesting. I wanted to share a couple little highlights from it. You know, greens have a lot of the amino acids that build muscle protein. Look at cows, right? That's where they get all their muscle. They're just eating grass. They're just eating chlorophyll-rich greens. The fiber can act like a sponge and help carry out toxins and cholesterol from the small intestine. We know greens are very high in alkaline minerals, magnesium, calcium, you know, and even the oxygen in the chlorophyll, you know, according to Victoria Butenko, makes greens the most alkalizing foods on the planet. You know, omega-3s, I didn't really look into the whole omega-3 to omega-6 ratio thing until this book. It was really interesting. And the whole idea that chlorophyll is liquid sunshine, and that the oxygen in chlorophyll can support the anaerobic bacteria. You know, I never really thought much about that. And then all the testimonials, I think half the book is testimonials about people who incorporated green smoothie. And what's interesting is they didn't have to change anything else about their diet. She did a study herself. She led one, and her participants were asked only to introduce a green smoothie daily, not to substitute it for anything. And 2/3 of the participants showed pretty dramatic increases in their health issues. So interesting testimonials. I just thought that book was really interesting. Oh, and then I'll share one little passage that I liked, that I found in there. Found really interesting. Interesting. Andy says Butenko's family is not raw vegan anymore. That's really interesting to me. You know, I want to know more. I want to read more about her story. But apparently this French doctor, he's challenging the classical Sheltonian method of water fasting, and is giving some fiber alternating with the water and noticing accelerated elimination. So I thought that was really interesting. You know, now in a juice cleanse, okay, do you want to incorporate the psyllium husk and stuff like that, very fiber rich? You want to do green smoothies, you want to, you know, how are you going to help pull out and push out, right, some of the stuck waste in there? So I'm just going to read this comment. I think someone's asking a question. Tried going raw multiple times. Yep. Mostly peanuts. Okay. Da, 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 da. I want to continue. I'm not using any greens mostly. Okay. Thanks for sharing. If there's a particular question you want us to address, type it in and we'll see if we can get to it. But last thing about that I saw in this book that I thought was really interesting was, looking at the chimpanzee diet. And if you can see that little graph there, the chimpanzee diet on the bottom, that was taken from Jane Goodall's books and research. So Jane Goodall is the famous chimpanzee scientist, chimpanzee whisperer. And from her work, Butenko estimates, this is an estimation, that chimps eat about half fruit, about 40% greens and flowers, and then 10% other stuff. Now, if you compare that to the typical raw foodist diet, right, we're getting the fruit part right, but a lot of people really eat a lot of the fatty stuff and more seeds and nuts and vegetables, right, like root veggies and things like that. So I don't know, it just made me think. I'm not saying anything about you should or we should or not saying that. I'm just kind of sharing the latest inspiration that I've been getting is sort of about greens and their potential value to the human diet. So
There's another author, goes by the name Professor Spira, who annotated and revised several of Ehret's books. And what Professor Spira is telling us is that near the end of his life, he was changing his point of view to long fast, from long fast rather to short fast. And you were mentioning just now someone's challenging Shelton's work by introducing fiber every other couple of days or so. So I think it's something similar to that. He was recommending much shorter fasts, Ehret was, and getting better results apparently. So just another author to throw in there.
Yeah, I have Spira's annotated Mikkel's diet healing system, and I think it's great. I think he brings it up to the modern day. He explains some of the some things that just need more clarification in the old book. It's easier to read, and yeah, Professor Spira, and he's got a great YouTube channel. So thank you, Rick. So basically, if you guys are also 5s on the Enneagram and you're an information seeker, you can go to my website, sethbailin.com/library, and all the PDFs there are free. So I have a lot of PDFs on health that I wrote, that other people wrote. A couple books, if they're in the public domain, I have on there. A couple other PDFs on consciousness, music, the occult, conspiracy. But feel free, just if you guys want to like reading, like digging, you want some stuff to share with other people, maybe put this on your radar, sethbailin.com/library, and you can download free PDFs. Cool. So this basically all this information led me to going, I need to eat raw food. I got to stop eating my eggs and bread, that I was eating every day. And so I did that pretty instantly. About 3 years ago, I decided to go vegan and raw at the same time. And this was after I'd been taking the information for maybe 6 months after I found it, during COVID times, during that 2020 year, but it took me about 6 months later to then make the decision, I'm going to do this. I think I have enough information, enough just wanting to do this, enough drive in me, willpower, that I think I can go vegan. I think I can go raw. Not raw, excuse me. I started eating high fruit that day, high fruit vegan the same day, because I didn't think I could transition instantly. And I know I can't. I mean, I'm fighting 35 years of cooked foods, conditioning, right? And culture. I always say culture is a hell of a drug. It's really hard to get off certain drugs. And so for the person asking about, are you all fully raw for years? How do I stay warm on this? I want to eat more raw food. I hear your concern. This is a very common thing. And I'll tell you, for the past week, I've been fully raw, but in my life, I'm not at that stage yet. I'm letting myself take my time to transition because I think that's really important. And I think taking years to transition from wherever you were in your standard eating, where something's not sustainable, to where you want to get to, you can allow yourself many years to get there. You don't have to do it overnight. Now, people may argue that, people may debate that, and also everyone has a different personality. So the person asking this question, maybe you do learn things slowly. Maybe you need like a trajectory like this, like a really slow incline, one step at a time, right? 2 steps forward, 1 step back, kind of slowly getting there. That's me. That's what I need. I need to transition slowly and slowly let go of the things that don't serve me. And I will eventually, when I'm done with them, totally drop them. But I need to be done, right? And I can't just decide and make it up. I have to actually give it to myself, eat it, and then feel so sick or just disgusted or come into enough information where I literally feel repulsed by that thing. So yeah, right now I'm extremely confident in the vegan thing, very confident in the high fruit. But when it comes to being fully raw, I can do weeks, I could do a couple months sometimes, and then I'll have cravings. And instead of fighting the cravings and creating this resistance in this cage, what I do is I let myself have it. I let myself have whatever I'm craving. And that may not be the best advice. It's not advice. I'm just telling you what I do. Someone asked my website again. I'm going to type it in the chat. It's sethbailin.com/library. So that's my perspective on the whole raw food thing, is to take your time. Is I'm taking my time, and I see myself within 5 years not having any need for cooked food ever again. Salt, coffee, none of that. Coffee is a very recent thing that I dropped, but I still in the future may have a craving that if I try to shut it out and try to reason against it, but I'm still thinking about it, but I shut it out, but I'm thinking about it, but I shut it out. I think that's going to cause more mental distress than just having some. Moving on with your life, right? Not thinking about it, because one other great book in there was Toxemia Explained by John Henry Tilden that came out almost 100 years ago. And he explains how stress and worry are draining the nervous system. So they could be just as bad as any food. So the whole question of, well, if I eat a piece of bread with love and acceptance of myself and no shame or guilt whatsoever, is that going to be, what's more damaging on the body? That, or not eating the bread and eating an orange instead, but kind of like feeling bad about it, like really craving the bread, really just keep thinking about it, wishing you had it, watching videos of the bread. What's going to be harder on the body? I don't know. It's probably different for everybody, but I'm willing to guess you don't want the stress and worry in the brain, and that's just going to keep draining the battery. So as far as my advice for going raw, just take it slow. But maybe you don't want to listen to someone who's not even fully there yet. I've only been into this lifestyle for almost 3 years, like I said. So, but let's get to the book. In the very beginning of my journey, I would start taking notes, because in addition to being a reader, I'm a note taker. I just write everything down. I want to know. I don't want to forget things. So when I learned, one time I bought a Hami melon, took it home, and I waited for it to get soft, like a cantaloupe, and I ate it, and it was no good. And I told my friends in one of the fruit groups online, I said, hey, this Hami melon sucks. Anybody know how to pick out a good one? And they say, yeah, it's supposed to be crunchy. I said, I had no idea. There was no label on the fruit. There's nothing at the grocery store that said, eat this while it's crunchy. Don't wait for it to get soft. So I just wrote that down in my notes. Slowly, my notes became 30, 50 pages, just huge list of like notes on fruit for myself about how to tell when they're ripe, what season they're in, where to go to find the best ones. And eventually it became a whole book, because I just had so much information, and the information was so important to me that I think the whole world needed it. And so I put it into a package. So, yep. Somebody says making sure you have a rainbow of colors is good. Yep, raw dehydrated foods can help with cooked food cravings. That's good. That's great. This is cool, guys. Thank you for participating. Any other questions or comments, feel free to just type them in, or you can chime in audibly too. So basically, I'll tell you what's a little bit in the book, and then we can just dive in. You guys can ask me anything you want about it. So what is in the book? It's basically an outline of the most common fruits in the world. So open up any given page, and here's the ananas. I don't know if you can see my window now, but I'll just flip through the book a little bit, and I'll bring up a PDF too, so you can see the nice full colors. But it outlines each fruit, the most common ones, right? It's impossible to classify every fruit because there's so many. There's probably infinite fruits out there and different varieties of each fruit. But the scientific name, the climacteric quality. Does anybody know what climacteric is? Like, I didn't actually hear that word until getting into the raw food game. Climacteric means, does it ripen off the vine? Does it continue to ripen and continue to get sweeter and softer once you pick it from the vine? So about half the fruits are climacteric, about half the fruits are not. And so I thought that was very important to include. What is the climacteric quality of the fruit? What is its water content? You know, we talk a lot about high water content fruits being beneficial for detox. And we talk about not mixing high water content with low water content fruits, right? Like eating dried fruits with watermelons, like not going to do good things in the belly. So I thought that was really important information to put in. How to tell when the fruit is ripe is probably the most important one, right? Because especially when we shop at the grocery store, it's an uphill battle, y'all, right? It's tough to find good ripe fruits out there in the grocery store. So when I'm hunting, let's say in this season, for example, honeydew melons are starting to appear. Why don't you guys tell me, how do you pick out a good honeydew? What are you looking, touching, and smelling for? I just gave it away. For a ripe honeydew. Oh, honey melon, yellow on the bottom, and are soft. I think you mean honeydew melons. I was talking about Hami, H-A-M-I, before when I said Hami melons are crunchy. That's the H-A-M-I variety. Just clarifying a comment real quick. So yeah, honeydews, they got to smell good. They have to have a sweet aroma, you know? Once I came into that information, I was like, it changed my life because I started picking out sweet, delicious melons again. You know, the ones I would take home were actually good. Pale patch, yep, like a little field spot, deep yellow, brown stem. A lot of the melons don't have stems in the store, so what else can you look for? I think it's like a sweet smell. Sweet smell, a little bit soft and a little bit stickier. The skin's going to be a little stickier than the underripe ones are like totally smooth. But the aroma is key. So anyways, I'm going to close this window and open up the PDF of my book so we can just, heavy for its size, good, that means it's got a lot of water, yep. I'm going to open up another window so we can explore the book and dive in. But last two slides here really quick of this one. Has anybody seen the Fruitarian Foundry account on Instagram? They're making these amazing images of historic fruitarians, they say. And I use this imagery to just draw attention to the fact that we can return this planet to a Garden of Eden. That fruit is the original diet of mankind. It is the optimal diet of mankind, fruit and vegetables. And there's no reason why we can't live a life like these people in these images with just the utmost abundance everywhere you go. So to me, this whole raw food movement is not about reversing my asthma. Oh, and by the way, since I incorporated high fruit, my asthma's gone, totally gone. But it's not just about that for me. It's about eliminating suffering across the entire globe. This is how important it is to me, right? Like, this is really, really important. that we start looking at what we eat. Stop eating the agriculturally complex, destructive foods and return to just the simple ones that you can pick off the tree that smell good, that taste incredible, right? So I do think we can return to a veritable Garden of Eden. And I just wanted to use these images to kind of like support that. And again, the artist, their name is Fruitarian Foundry, and they're only on Instagram as far as I can tell. So cool. Did that stop my screen share? I'll go to another one now. Okay. So this is inside my book, y'all. A couple quotes just to kick it off. But I want to ask you guys, is there anything that you're interested to see in here? This is the table of contents, and I break down each fruit by the classification, the digestion type, I call it. So melons is one digestion type, right? They digest extremely quick because they have a low content of acid and fat, but a high content of sugar and water, right? Acid fruits have high concentration of acid and low sugar relatively, right? Sweet fruits have very low acid, high sugar. Fatty fruits have high fat, low sugar, low acid. Non-sweet fruits, low sugar, low acid, high water. And fruits to be cooked, ones that don't taste palatable unless you put heat to them. So as we know, they all digest differently, and that's why I separated them in those. And tie this all together into the book presentation is that this comes from natural hygiene. These food combining principles come from the work of Dr. Shelton, primarily, as far as I know, and it is a central practice of natural hygiene to exercise proper food combining. So I set up my book to be about food combining and to help the consumer make the best decision to combine the right foods at the right time. So if you have any questions on the book, I'm going to switch the slide, but if you have any questions, please type them in the chat, or please just chime in and ask them. Unmute yourself and ask them. And I love to show you everything I can about this. Here's some definitions in the beginning, which I think are really important. So Bonnie wants to know how to buy the book. It's available on Amazon. It's available on my website, sethbailin.com. And I was trying to create a discount code for you guys, just to give you a coupon code that you could plug in, and my website wouldn't let me do it. So I just put the books on sale. So they're cheaper right now. I think I'm going to keep it that way for 24 hours. This book printed is $22, but right now it's $20, free shipping anywhere in the world. And I have a digital PDF version, so you can get the one on your computer and flip through just like this that you're seeing. And that's that was $15, but I put that on sale too. I think I only made that $12 today. So for you guys, I just brought the prices down to share this stuff. And feel free to take screenshots too. If you'd like to just grab some information, you don't want to buy the book, that's fine with me. So one question here is eating fruits immediately after coconut. Well, that's not really a question. Do you mean, is that good? What can you eat after coconut? I'm not sure if you mean the coconut meat or the coconut water. A lot of times I'll drink coconut water and immediately eat fruit afterward. A lot of times I'll blend coconut water with my fruits. I don't like to eat coconut meat with quick digesting fruit. Okay, so coconut meat digests really slowly compared to most fruit. It's fat, and fat just digests slower. It takes the body longer to access those nutrients. So with coconut meat, that's tough. I'd like to eat that on an empty stomach. I like to just drink the coconut water and eat the meat, because that's from the same package, you know? So I do think, even though the water's gonna digest real quick and the meat's gonna come through slow, It's from the same package, and I think my body does like that. But I try not to mix the meat with too much fruit. The exception will be coconut ceviche if it's jelly-like. A lot of times you have really hard, it's almost crunchy. You really have to chew it. That's from a mature coconut. And I prefer the meat from the young coconuts, the ones that are jelly. It's softer than a mango almost. So yeah, mature coconut, I just don't eat that fat. I just don't eat it. It's too slow to digest for me. And I don't actually like chewing through it. So what I might do is blend it with water and create coconut milk. Yeah, if you have crunchy coconut meat, I would recommend blending it with water and making coconut milk. That's like a delicious milk. You strain it through a nut milk bag or something. Try that. So I'll just go to my page on coconut real quick. We'll take a look at it. Yeah, before getting into raw food, I didn't know that you could eat sprouted coconut. I didn't know that was a thing. I actually didn't really know anything about coconut. I only knew the brown ones you saw in the store didn't look that good to me, so I never bought them. Someone's asking for a good source of organic fruit in Chicago. You know, I'll answer that in a sec. I'll get to that in a sec. Let's talk about coconut real quick here. So you have your young coconut, which I prefer. Most people prefer it, just tastes better. It's got full of water. The meat is jelly. It's really easy to eat. The meat's actually sweet sometimes. And this may sound gross to some people, but I ate like cold cut meat for so long in my life. Coconut meat sometimes to me tastes like cold cut turkey or like cold cut ham. It just, and when I think about cold cut turkey and cold cut ham, I want to puke. Like I don't desire those things at all. They're disgusting to me. But the coconut meat kind of reminds me, it's salty, sweet, it's soft and chewy at the same time. It's cold. It has hits a lot of the same notes. So I don't know, sorry if I grossed anybody out with that. But yeah, and then you get the brown coconuts, which they're husked and they've been sitting out for longer. If a coconut's not refrigerated, the water is likely weeks old. And you can tell, like I've been living in Miami for a year. I've been drinking a lot of coconut. A freshly harvested coconut tastes one way, and a coconut from that same rack consumed 2 weeks later loses most of its flavor. And in fact, it can start to taste rancid. It can start to taste off. It can ferment. I personally wouldn't recommend getting the brown coconuts to drink the water from if they're not refrigerated. Refrigeration just helps keep the freshness, and they're probably not going to be as old. Some say that coconut meat tastes like raw squid. Yeah, and I like making coconut ceviche with the raw meat, the raw coconut meat, cutting that up into pieces, mixing it with lime juice, a little tomato, cilantro, red onion if you mess with that, it's really good salad. So yeah, then you get your coconut milk, coconut water. But this is the interesting thing about this. I almost said fruit. It's not a fruit technically, it's the seed. Now, if that green coconut there in the bottom is a fruit, it's the fruit of a tree, but we don't eat the flesh that surrounds the seed. Like in every other fruit, right? A mango is the flesh that surrounds the pit, the seed. The coconut, we want the seed. So I know some fruitarians who will not eat coconut because it's not a fruit, they say. For me, I included it in the book. I love coconut. It is technically a fruit in my book, just not the part that you eat. So, okay, let's address the organic fruit in Chicago question. I have in the book an essay on organic versus conventional. Now, I'll just summarize this really quickly for you. Organic, to me, it doesn't mean anything anymore. If you see the organic certification label, all it means is that company paid for that label. It doesn't mean that fruit's any higher quality. It doesn't mean that fruit contains any fewer pesticides, because I know that some farms will put their inorganic fruits in bags labeled organic and vice versa. And I know that there's a lot of pesticides allowed in the organic certification process that, they claim to be organic, but they're still toxic. So to me, you want local, like the best quality. And not you want, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I want local. I focus on local food. And I do not care if it says organic or not. Because in the very beginning of this little essay here, I write that organic, it really means it contains carbon. So all fruits are organic, even though they're sprayed with pesticides. So it's a whole soupy. That word is tough right now because it means like 3 different things. It either means it's carbon-based, or it doesn't have pesticides, or somebody paid money for a certain label. And that third one there, that somebody paid money for a label, is what it actually means the most to me. So I don't look for organic fruit. I look for ripe fruit. I look for delicious looking fruit. I look for local fruit. And if it's local, it's likely more small scale, and small scale is likely more sustainable. Not always, but for my friend in Chicago, any cold climates, I'd recommend going to farmers markets as much as you can when the season is right. I understand Chicago is like freezing 6 months of the year, so that's got to be tough. But in the summers and spring, you'll have a lot of good options if you look for them. Also, I would start looking at the Asian stores, the Asian markets, right? The Hong Kong market or the Saigon market around you. Like Google that, like look, investigate the Asian markets, food markets around you, because a lot of times they have jackfruit, and they have dragon fruit, and they have durian, and you didn't even know, right? You go to your common grocery store or the Walmart, the big box store, right? And some people overlook the Asian store, but also Spanish-speaking Latin stores. They can have a lot of good fruits too. So I would focus on local, one, and then diversifying your pickups, right? I actually do shop at Walmart. I shop at Publix, like the common supermarket. I shop at the farmers markets. I shop at individual farms, just go straight to the farm. I have ordered food from out of state before, but now I don't have to since I live in South Florida. But I'd also recommend looking into fruit delivery options. Miami fruit is like massively expensive. I wouldn't recommend them. This summer, I do hope to be shipping out mangoes from South Florida to places like Chicago. So if you want to stay in touch, please hit me up, and or I'll give you my email address, and you can just follow up and get on my list. And I'm going to try to get local mangoes out to people in the States. So anyways, that was my short answer on organic fruit. Just search for local. Local's like 10,000 times more important than the organic label, in my opinion. People may have different opinions about this. Let's look at some other pages in here. Guys, any questions you have, please ask about this book. I want to know if you want to see any particular fruit, if you want to know what it was like publishing it, anything at all, please type it, or just ask. Just unmute yourself and chime in. Do you think poor quality water is harmful for growing fruits? Does it have a difference in taste? Yes. You don't want to water your fruits with toxic water. Obviously, there's a whole spectrum to that, and there's actually spectrums within spectrums of, right, how hard is the water, what type of minerals, what type of pollution. It's tough. But I do know that people water a lot of their fruits with just tap water, straight from the ground, or straight from their well or from the tap, which is high in fluoride and high in chlorine and all sorts of other garbage. And they still produce amazing fruit that tastes delicious. So in one way, fruits can act like a filter. The tree actually can act like a filter and filter out a lot of the pesticides and a lot of the hard garbage that you find in there. And I wouldn't worry too much about it. I wouldn't start watering your tomatoes with bottled water or anything like that. You continue to use tap water, and you tell me, like, do your tomatoes taste okay? Do your cucumbers that you grow taste okay? Obviously the terrain is everything, and so what feeds the fruits are going to have an impact. I'm not an expert on water, but those are my ideas. Here's my website. It's sethbailin.com. I'll type it in the chat. You can also just type in fruitcompanion.com or thefruitcompanion.com. They'll redirect to this. So cool. I wanted to do a little 10 seconds on dried fruit, right? Any fruit that you reduce the water content of to less than about 50, well, it could be anything. It could be a sticky half-dried fruit. We consider those dried, and they're going to digest like sweet fruits, right? So if you want some sweet fruits, it's recommended to eat them with, if you want dried fruit, since they digest much slower, given their lack of water, it's recommended to eat them with other sweet fruits that have a slower transit time. And you can dry any fruit. I mean, I've seen dried watermelon out there. I've never had it because it just sounds so dumb. Not dumb, excuse me. It's like, the name is watermelon. It's about the water. Like, I eat watermelon for the water. Why would you suck all the water out of it? It just sounds like a lot of work to suck out 93% of the water from a fruit. Let's go to watermelon. Boom. People see this and they go, "Do you got yellow watermelons?" It's like, yeah, they got yellow watermelons. They got orange watermelons. They got silver watermelons. They probably got colors I had never heard of. So yeah, here's an example of what the book looks like. It's got the non-climacteric versus climacteric qualities. Again, non-climacteric means it does not ripen off the vine. So watermelon, if it doesn't have a nice yellow field spot, which means that it was sitting there in the sun for a long time, then it's likely not mature and not ripe. And it's not going to ripen further. It just won't. It doesn't have that chemistry in it. However, things like the muskmelon and cantaloupe, look at it on that side. Non-climacteric with climacteric tendencies. Okay, so it's not binary. Nature is not binary. Nature is very fluid. And some fruits kind of have these climacteric tendencies, but not enough to be considered climacteric. So you find that with muskmelon and cantaloupe where, yeah, you put them in the sun, they will get a little bit softer, a little bit sweeter. You let them sit for a couple days, they will get a bit softer, a bit sweet. But you got to be careful they were picked mature, because if they're not past a certain level, they'll never get delicious and sweet. So there's a few fruits in here that are non-climacteric with climacteric tendencies, such as these melons here. Here's some more of the beautiful melons. Has anybody tried Piel de Sapo? That came on my radar a couple of years ago. They call them Santa Claus melons because they're usually one of the later season melons, and they're available till Christmas in general. They're available kind of later than most melons are. Okay, got this. Says dried watermelon is not worth it. Thank you. You confirmed my suspicion. Yeah, we're going to move on to acid fruits here. Again, any questions, guys, please chime in. So anyways, these were all notes to myself. I literally was just writing, oh, lemon's 92% water. I wrote that down in my Google document because I just wanted to know, and then they got to be yellow. That's obvious. The lemons you don't really need to worry too much about. You usually see those. They only have one type of quality to them. They're just yellow, and most of them are ripe. Most non-climacteric fruits are picked ripe, right? Like most oranges, mandarins you see, more or less they're going to be ripe. Now you can get a box of like mandarins that are sour and underripe, sure, but they should be picked ripe because they're non-climacteric. In fact, most acid fruits out there are going to be non-climacteric. It's kind of a theme I noticed. It's whoa, did I make a mistake? Tomatoes are climacteric, right? They ripen. Wow, that might be the first mistake I noticed in here. Or do they? Do tomatoes ripen further? I thought you leave them on the counter and they get a little more red, right? Wow, I'm really second guessing this right now. Interesting. Subacid fruits, most fruits out there are subacid. It means they have they're not predominated by sugar or acid. They have not equal amounts of both, but again, not predominated by either. We're getting a couple questions. I'm just going to address these. Is juicing advised? Well, I can't advise you to do anything if I don't know you. I like juicing. I've been juicing a lot this month. I think juicing is a great way to let the body take a solid food vacation. Listen to John Rose about what he thinks on juicing. But also, keep in mind, people say juicing is not natural. I disagree. I think it's extremely natural to put an orange in your mouth, chew it up, swallow the juices, and if you don't want to eat it, like if your body's telling you I'm full or I don't want to swallow right now, you can spit out the fiber. So your teeth are the natural juicer. It's vacuum powered, right? Slow masticating. It's teeth are an amazing juicer. So, and I think chewing sugar cane, you can't really swallow that fiber, so you spit it out. It's very natural. I think juicing is natural, contrary to what a lot of people will say, but it may not be natural to like live on it. You don't only want to eat juice. Your body loves fiber. I talked about the benefits of fiber earlier. So it's a good way to cleanse, I would say. If you're looking to cleanse and looking to have a solid food vacation, give your guts a little bit of a break while still getting the calories, sure, I would say go try some juicing. Probiotics, curd, B12 deficiency. Really quick about that, I'll just say that the body generally produces these things. It produces the bacteria. It produces the B12 when we're feeding it the right things, right? So if you completely clean out your bacteria content in your colon because you did an enema or whatever, it'll rebuild just after eating some mangoes. So I don't think that we need B12 supplements. I think we just need to be eating food from nature and the right kinds. Enema is okay to do. I mean, again, I can't advise you I don't know your particular case, your constitution, everyone's different. For some people, an enema might not be the thing to do, but I like them, again, not in excess, once in a while, just to clear out some stuckness. Yes, I do like them. It's mulberry season out there in a lot of places. Even in some subtropical, I used to live in New Orleans, Louisiana, and they were going crazy in the spring, crazy in March and April, the mulberries, and they're everywhere too. Oh, has anybody had the ground cherries? Or golden? I see golden berries in the grocery stores. I don't see the ground cherries, but I used to grow them in a community garden, and they grow so well and so easily. I had so many ground cherries. I didn't even have to try. And they came up the next year without planting them because some of them fell and the seeds were buried in the soil. And then they just replanted the next season. Anybody like ground cherries? Where are my ground cherry fans at?
Can we maybe finish with a few questions, Seth?
Sure thing. Yeah. We're at 90 minutes. Thank you again for letting me share, guys. Any questions you have, I'm all ears. Pawpaw is the only fruit in this book I've not had. I've not tried pawpaw, and I'm waiting for, I guess, the fall to roll around so I can go up to Ohio or Pennsylvania or somewhere, Kentucky, where they have pawpaw. What do you guys want to know? Anything about the book? That's what it looks like. And it is, you can find it PDF and the physical copy if you like actual books. It's pocket size, it's only 6 inches tall, so it's meant to fit in your pocket and go to the grocery store with you, go to the farmer's market so you can reference it and pick out the best stuff. What about mame sapote? What about it? I mean, it's an amazing fruit. It takes so long for that to get ripe. They're on the trees for like up to 2 years sometimes. So mame sapote is a true true delicacy. I love it.
I think
Are you
Magic.
is someone raising their hand?
Yeah,
Mike, get your hand
yeah,
raised.
Mike's got his hand up. You,
Oh, what's up, dude? Just chime in.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just want to say I really enjoyed the talk, Seth, and I love the interactive aspect you put in there as well. So yeah, that was really good. Yeah, and I really just wanted to touch on the water fasting again briefly.
Hmm.
And obviously, you were saying that if you, well, not necessarily you were saying this, but there's a researcher, I can't remember his name. He's saying that if you mix it up with fiber, somehow it might improve the elimination process. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit more. Or yeah, just go over that.
Yeah, let me pull up that quote again. It was this one. Can you see that? Oh, no, it's this one. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So feel free to take a screenshot, or just check out Albert Mosseri. I don't speak French. Check out his work. This is the first I had heard about it, but he calls them half fasts, where he introduces a limited amount of food-rich fiber in addition to water. So 1 pound of fruits and 1 pound of vegetables daily. That's not that much, right? If you think about we're eating 5 pounds of fruit sometimes, or daily, you know. So he's kind of mixing this water fast with just fiber and getting into the system to alkalize and to probably pull out and push out a lot of the old waste. I wonder, has anyone tried that? Has anyone tried like a juice cleanse, but like doing smoothies as well, or psyllium husk? I mean, I hear good things about the psyllium husk and the bentonite clay. I've never done that. I've never consumed those things, but I have done a water fast. I did a 21-day water fast, and I eliminated some, what I can only imagine is mucoid plaque. It was pretty sinister. It was disgusting smelling. It was black, and it was large. And I eliminated that 5 days into refeeding after a 21-day water fast.
Yeah, and there's one other thing I wanted to briefly mention, actually, Seth, about the Enneagram.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you, I'm a fellow 5. I'm an investigator, and I was actually thinking about this a few weeks ago. I wonder, like, in the raw food community, how many people are a 5 or an investigator? Because I would assume that actually, a lot of people will be attracted to this diet who are 5s. But with Ronnie's blessing and with your own blessing, I do actually have a link where people can take the personality test if they haven't already, and it's completely free. I think if you want like a more detailed report, it's like $15 or something on top, but the actual basic report's free. So is that all right? I'll drop it in the chat.
yeah, go for
That's
it, no problem.
That's cool with me. I've taken the tests, the questions and answers to figure out my Enneagram number, but I actually don't like those as much as just reading about each one. Like if you read all about the loyalist, what is a 6, what it means, and then it'll either resonate with you or it won't. And so personally, people can take the personality test. Please include it in the chat. I'll actually check it out myself. But you can also just read about each one, and then one's going to click with you. One's going to go, oh, I think that's me. Because they outline, like the shadow and the wing and all these things that you can tend to if you're frustrated, and it's really interesting. Yeah, and I don't think not everyone in the raw food movement is 5, but I was thinking about this too, Mike, that like a lot of people who search for information tend to gravitate maybe in the same types of groups. I was just at a meetup with this YouTube channel, Old World Florida, and it's a lot of like research nerds. We want to know everything. And we're all just like super nerdy information guys, like probably all number 5. So yeah, it's interesting. I wonder how many in the raw food movement, if it has a bias toward any particular number. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so if people from the group want to take it, maybe we can chat about it in the coming weeks. That'd be interesting, I think. Yeah, like I'm not an affiliate or anything. It's literally just something I've done myself. So.
Mm-hmm. Cool. It's actually really good to know who in your group of friends and who you work with is like has which numbers and how they work, how they function, because we're not all the same, right? People do not think the same as you. That was hard for me to learn. I was like, what? You can read something and not have it blow your mind and make you change your life, because they just live life a different way. So It's really good to know who around you is kind of how they gravitate towards what particular personality. Yeah, it's good.
And what are your thoughts on, because you are a musician,
Mm-hmm.
so as a musician, do you sing to your food? Do you play music to your food? Or what's your take on that?
That's a great question. I don't sing or play music to my food. I've never even thought about that. Maybe I should. Because I think, I do. Okay. To structure my water, I have like a tensor ring. It's like a copper coil, and it just sits in there, and it structures it a bit. It starts like a vortexing in the energy field. And so that's what intentions can do, right? Dr. Emoto taught us that in the Hidden Messages of Water, that even writing the word love on a water will allow it to crystallize and have beautiful geometric shapes in the crystals when it freezes. Now, singing may achieve the same thing, but with fruit, I think that the sun and the trees already did that. Like for me, fruit's already structured. I don't need to do anything to it. I could bless it, right? I could practice mindfulness by just praying or saying grace or thanking, whatever it took to get this fruit to me. I think those are all great practices, and I do those. But as far as I don't think I need to like structure that fruit juice anymore. I've never sang to it. No.
But yeah, I'm definitely I've got more into sound medicine lately. I listen to these tracks which are called Merlin's Transport tracks. It's kind of like putting you in a trance, but in a good way. And it's I think it just works on the subconscious and just makes me feel a lot more in flow, more harmonic. That
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing. And it ties in with my meditation chamber behind me, which
Yeah.
Mer- Merlin's chamber, which is all about intentions. Funny you should mention intentions because that's what it's all about. It's all about amplifying and broadcasting intentions. So we are amplifiers and broadcasters of intentions anyway. But Merlin's chamber just turns up the volume on that.
Yep. And I think we're coming into this renaissance of this type of technology right now, which is beautiful because we're starting to see people create more orgone technology, tensor technology, these chambers, these pyramids, because we're starting to reclaim this free energy and like the etheric field that we can manipulate and can broadcast our intentions into. It is real, despite what the last 200 years of modern science has tried to tell us about. So, but as far as like music to me is everything's music. This conversation has been music. Images are music. Color is music. Speaking is music. Everything to me has rhythm and tone. So I almost don't separate songs from everyday life, if that makes any sense. It's like, yeah, I can go into it and sing a song, but a conversation is just as much of a song as that one that I sang would be.
Yeah, it's all part of the continuum.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thanks, Mike. Great questions. Now, I want to stay in touch with you guys. Let me type my email in the chat if you feel free to reach out, or just save the email and reach out later. Please feel free. I'd love to hear from you. BailinSeth@gmail. You can also reach me through my website, SethBailin.com, thefruitcompanion.com. And Lisa says, human design is also great to know your friends. Yeah, I love human design. I'm a 6'2" manifester. I'm sorry, I'm a 6'2" generator. Generator. And that's another thing, like generators can have this like ability to kind of like motor, like keep pushing and keep creating. So that's what I spend most of my day doing. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We had a lot of people came in since the beginning. Thank you all very much. Any other questions? I'd be happy to answer them. Or if we're running out of time, you can always email me. I just typed my email in the chat.
Yeah, I think Nitin's got a question about varicose veins.
Oh yeah. So Nitin's asked a few questions tonight. Can varicose veins be cured on a raw diet? Here's what I'll say. Pretty much any imbalance in health can and will be reversed when we return to nature. When we return to the proper way of eating and stop eating the things that cause the veins in the first place, or cause the imbalance, or cause the disease, right? So with a return to nature, the body, this is beautiful about what this information that I came into. I don't have to worry so much, right? I don't have to worry about these diseases and about something coming up and attacking you, like some disease attacking you randomly or haphazardly. No, it all has to do with our lifestyle decisions, 99% of it.
Something that's quite interesting to do, which sounds a bit weird to do, but when you're around people that are long-term raw vegans that are maybe in their 60s and their 70s, older people, have a look at their feet and their calves, their legs. There's no varicose veins, and you can see the blood flows. You can see like the veins in their feet and stuff. Like it just looks like a lot of older people, when you look at their feet, looks bad.
Yeah, and the proof's in the pudding for a lot of this. And
but some of the raw fooder people, they've been out in the sun so long that they're like their body and stuff, their face might not look as young as it could, but their feet look healthy.
Yeah. And the other thing to keep in mind, I truly do believe this, is that fruit doesn't heal anything. It's the body that heals all. And that fruit supports the body, right? If fruit could heal you, then you could take it while eating other stuff. But that's not how it works. You have to stop eating the other stuff. So it's actually the cessation of consuming certain things that really allows the body to come back into full energy, to be able to detox, to be able to heal. So, and the other thing too, I think that I'm hearing some pressure about, how do you stay raw? I want to stay raw. I know it's right, but it's really hard for me. I would just recommend making that 5-year plan. Do you think you can do it in 5 years? Do you think you can slowly inch toward that? Do you think maybe this year you can go vegetarian? I don't know where you're at or where anyone's at. Here, we're all into the raw foods, but
I'm vegetarian.
vegetarian, great. So if you're vegetarian, maybe the next step, if you want to be raw, is like maybe we stop eating eggs, we stop dairy.
I don't eat eggs.
That's cool. So, and maybe you don't want to stop eating dairy, because I mean, it could be a cultural thing. Oh, and you're the one that's been asking the questions.
Yeah, I have stopped dairy. Actually, I've tried raw food for a long time. Actually, 3 years back I started. But then here and there I was like afraid, and then the body, something happens, I lose weight and so many things. I was not consistent actually for one reason. I was consistent for 1 month, but I was eating sometimes bananas and some coconut and peanuts, soaked peanuts like this. Um, Recently I got this white dandruff type things here in the face. So some doctors told me I am lacking in the oil thing. So I need to eat some ghee and all. So all those things, but all those things, cooked food and all those things does not go well. This is the time, right?
Yeah.
From 1 month I have tried everything raw, but I did not eat greens. I don't know what is missing.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
going to
this
continue
lady,
we can't give you a full-on consultation or coaching at the moment, but if you want to contact Seth, he's provided his email address. If you maybe can get a private conversation with him to go over some details if you like.
yeah, I'm happy to talk to anybody here about anything. I'm not a health coach. I'm not fully raw. I'm a fruit guy. I love fruit, and I teach about fruit, and I do think fruit is the natural food of man. And there may be more qualified coaches, people out there who can help answer your questions. But there's this misconception out there in the doctors, like, oh, you're low blood, you got to drink some blood. You're low calcium, better grind up some bones and eat some bones. Like, you don't need to eat the thing to get the thing. So if you're lacking a natural grease, maybe it's a vitamin imbalance, right? Maybe we're too acidic and it's causing the grease to dry up, right? So we don't necessarily need to eat ghee in order to get the nice complexion in the face again. It's tough. It's a lot of information out there, and you got to keep just digging and find what works and experiment.
You mean to say I can keep continuing raw if I want without having to eat cooked food?
You
And
can
if
do
I am,
you can do anything you want, my friend. You can do anything.
there is no need of cooked food.
There's no need to cook food, not necessarily. People have been doing raw for decades, and thriving health, total high performing athletes. I don't think there's a need, but if it's a cultural thing, or if it's cold out, or if you're new to it and you need to give yourself some because you're craving, there may be like other psychological needs that you have to address.
No, it's not psychological. It's about, I don't see much people doing around me, so that's a little bit of fear. That's all.
Yeah,
I see.
And I'm not using.
No, I can't have you asking question after question after question. We're coming to an end tonight, but
All right, okay. Sure. Thanks.
what I'd like you to do is investigate if there's any other animal in the history of hundreds of millions of years on planet Earth that eat a cooked food diet. So if you want evidence about raw food diets, there's kind of more evidence about raw food diets than any diet, because that's what all life lives on and has done for hundreds of millions of years successfully. So that's where you get your confidence from a little bit, hopefully. Anyway,
Yeah.
So one last question, if I can ask.
No.
No, sorry, Nitin. But thank you for your contribution, and feel free to join again. So Seth,
Yeah, reach out, email, or hit up Ronnie.
How can people find you and follow you so that they know where to go to continue the conversation with you if they like?
Sure. Again, my website is sethbailin.com, thefruitcompanion.com, or just fruitcompanion.com. I have all those. They'd redirect to the same place. You can contact me through the site, but my email is also right here, bailinseth@gmail. And Instagram, The Fruit Companion, or Radical Health Zine, Zine. But to follow all things fruit and raw food, The Fruit Companion on Instagram and online. You can also find the book on Amazon.
Thank you very much, Seth, and thank you everyone for joining today. We have a presentation next week from Frank Barkaya, How to Live a Prosperous and Fruitful Life on a Fruit Diet. He is Fruitful Vida, I think, on Instagram, and he's got some good information. So look forward to that next week. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ronnie. Everybody give a big hand to Ronnie for bringing us all together. Yes. This is great, man. I think you do this every week. This is amazing. This is incredible. And thanks for everybody here. Thanks for the questions.
Good night, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning.
All right,
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, keep creating the magic.
Right on. Thanks again.
See you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
the
very much.
magic.
Bye, Yashvad, Elizabeth, Rick, Brenda, Adele,
Bye.
David, Erica, Patricio, Soraka, Sky, Nick. You're all welcome to come back again. We will have other speakers in the future. And we're certainly going to keep this going to the festival, which is at the end of July, the weekly Fruitfest. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Have a
Bye-bye.
great
Thank you.
weekend. Bye then. Bye then.